The San Francisco 49ers get back on track in week 4, completely taking apart the New England Patriots 30-13. What happened? We're breaking all of the action down on this instant reaction podcast, plus giving out our weekly game balls for week 4 coming at you right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks everybody for making this your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love all the everydayers. Already see you jumping into the live chat here post game. And if you are new to Locked On 49ers, welcome. Make sure you hit subscribe so you get this daily coverage on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. All right, Croc. What was worse in this game, the officiating or the New England Patriots offensive line? Because they were both garbage if we were going to start this thing with what was bad about it, because there was a lot of good about it on the 49ers side, at least.
I think that they both lived up to the expectations. You know, I didn't expect the New England Patriots offensive line, or really their offense in general, to be very good. I thought the 49ers did an amazing job of taking advantage of it. And I think we know, from week to week, the referees, I like to say they're going to be human, but they're going to call some things that maybe don't go quite in your favor and that you're going to disagree with. And there was a missed call for a pass interference on a crosser to Brandon Ayuk. How do you not call them when the defensive back is clearly there early? There was a pass interference called on Diamond Lenore when the ham fighting was going both ways between Lenore and I think Jalen Polk, the rookie receiver out of Washington. So I would say that, yeah, they both lived up to the expectations of kind of what I expected out of this football game.
There's more, like, come on. This is 2 weeks. This is twice that Jordan Mason touchdowns have been taken away from somebody on the outside, receiver, tight end, getting called for holding.
Oh,
I hated the
Deebo. I forgot about those penalties.
Yeah.
I talked about the Ayuk one. I talked about the PI one. But goodness gracious, the two guys in motion at the same time when nobody was moving, and even George Kittle checked to make sure, Purdy, make sure everybody is still and not moving. Nobody was moving. How do you call back that touchdown? And then the holding on the long Mason catch to on George Kittle.
Yeah.
What people don't you can grab a jersey. What they don't want is they don't want you to be outside the frame. So if he like hugged him and kept him from being able to get to the ball carrier, that's one thing. But when you keep the hands inside and you have a grab of a guy, what are you supposed to do? Like patty cake him, supposed to just push him this way? No, you grab one, you connect, and you just, hey, you're not going anywhere. I thought it was a good block. So man, I mean, those were kind of, obviously the 49ers ended up scoring a touchdown anyways on those drives. Terrific throw or location for Brock Purdy to put in the position for George Kittle to make a fantastic contested catch. But, yeah, I forgot about those plays.
As pointed out in the chat, let's start here with the 49ers. We talked about it in the keys to victory. The 49ers couldn't lose another game up front, and they absolutely dominated in this game up front. And credit to the 49ers. Without Javon Hargrave, you saw a guy like Kevin Givens jump in there and wreak havoc on the New England Patriots offensive line. 2.5 sacks for Kevin Givens, 1.5 sacks from Malik Collins from the interior. We saw Bosa winning multiple times, finally got home and got the strip sack, recovered a fumble. And just a half a dozen sacks. They were hitting Jacoby Brissett like crazy. And I came away in this game, Croc, feeling bad for Jacoby Brissett because he's just back there taking punishment. And as what was pointed out on social media, if the Patriots can figure out how to block anybody, then they'll just bench Jacoby Brissett and put the rookie in anyway. So like it's just like a sacrificial situation for Jacoby Brissett to be back there behind that offensive line. It was really bad, and the 49ers took advantage of it and just dominated. Like the Patriots have no chance when you're going up against a team like the 49ers with that offensive line.
Well, I think one thing that I was looking for in this game is for the 49ers to take advantage of a bad offensive line from the New England Patriots. I watched the Patriots against the New York Jets. And I saw what that looked like. The quarterback didn't have any time. So when I watch this 49ers team, a team that is kind of struggling to have that consistent pressure, a lot of people wondering, where's Nick Bosa? Where's Leonard Floyd? Some guys that you paid money for, Gross Matos. Where are those guys at? You expect them to have a bounce back game against an offensive line like the New England Patriots. And they did just that. So I'm really big on handling business the way that you're supposed to handle business. And I thought the 49ers defensive line definitely did that against a really poor offensive line from the New England Patriots. I would be very worried if the 49ers didn't do that. And maybe not to that extent, right? 6 sacks, 100 hits on the quarterback. It didn't have to be that. But just having their presence felt. And I felt like throughout this game, it felt like the 49ers were really back there and they were very consistent with it.
Can you imagine what 49ers fans would be saying about a left tackle that just keeps getting beat in the same way every time? Nick Bosa is just like swatting his hands out of the way, and it worked every single time. It's pretty unbelievable, man. And so, yeah, they got some things to fix with the New England Patriots up front. And the 49ers took advantage, and you have to, and they did in this game, en route to a 30-13 victory. And it really wasn't even as close as that looks, that final score looks. Can we talk first, though, about my first game ball, which goes to not All-Pro Fred, but Depoy Fred, Defensive Player of the Year Fred. He's the early front runner for Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion. I think we got to get that. We got to get that crusade going early and make sure he gets the votes he needs to get that award if he keeps playing like he is right now. He had another one of those Superman interceptions. I talk about it where you're playing Madden and you're like, no way a linebacker can make that play unless it's Fred Warner, who actually can go up and make a play. And so pick 6 for Fred Warner in this one, and just a phenomenal football player. The 4th and 1 stop from Fred Warner, and he didn't even play the second half of the game, and he was still one of the most impactful players on the field for the 49ers. Now, I hope we get some good news about his ankle injury, and hopefully it was precautionary that he was held out of the second half because the 49ers were in control of that game, because the 49ers are going to need Fred Warner against some opponents that might be a little bit stronger than the New England Patriots going forward. So we're really hoping the good news is coming from Fred Warner's ankle.
49ers have been banged up, and I think we've had enough bad news with some of these injuries, but I do think it was a little bit more precautionary. You see him on the sideline, still has his shoulder pads on. He's walking around. I didn't have or see this noticeable limp or anything like that. So it felt more like, you know what, we're just going to hold you out the rest of this game. The thing I would be worried about the most is if it was maybe like high ankle sprain. And I think he would have been in a lot more excruciating pain if that were the case. So I think that the signs are pointing up, and they're like, hey, let's save that ankle. You're going to have to chase Kyler Murray around next week. Go ahead, rest, get right, and don't take any more punishment for the rest of this game.
Not just All-Pro Fred, Defensive Player of the Year Fred is what I'm talking about right now. After this 49ers thoroughly dominating 30-13 win, it did get a little hairy there at the end of the first half and to start the second half, Croc. Let's get into that next. I want to talk Jordan Mason, currently the NFL's leading rusher, and a whole lot more from 49ers Week 4 action next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Gametime. Oh, man, I got some good concerts coming up, and I always get excited to go to Gametime and buy tickets for the next event I'm going to, whether it's a concert, a comedy show. You're going to go see your San Francisco 49ers. Maybe last minute you realize, man, I can actually go to the game this week and get some of those last minute tickets. And you can find fantastic deals at Gametime on those last minute tickets, even saving up to 60% on last minute seats for sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, theater events, all of it near you. And Gametime now upping it because they have a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. How about the feature that is my favorite, which is the all-in pricing? You got to toggle on the all-in pricing feature. So you see the totals up front, no surprise fees at checkout. I hate the surprise fees at checkout on some apps. Toggle on all-in pricing on Gametime, And then you see the view from your seat, panoramic style, so you know exactly what you're going to get before you buy. And the lowest price guarantee, you know you're getting a great price on those seats at Gametime. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right, Croc, my second game ball here, and I'm going to let you give out the next game ball, but I got to give out a game ball to my guy, Jordan Mason, who currently leads the NFL in rushing. He's averaging over 110 yards per game running the football right now, breaking off big runs. He even had a big catch and a second touchdown taken away from the stat sheet for a bogus holding call in this game. He's been phenomenal. I like the way they used him catching the ball out of the backfield multiple times. He was targeted, 4 times in this game out of the backfield. So Jordan Mason, he's been awesome. And it's not just like Kyle Shanahan does and should get a lot of credit for the 49ers running game, for what Jordan Mason's doing right now, for Brock Purdy, what he's doing right now. And I know there's some haters out there that like to hate on Brock Purdy and say, oh, he's not that good. He would be bad in another team, in another offense. But seeing what Brock Purdy has done throughout some of the injuries and now seeing him in this game, he was awesome. And we've seen what bad quarterbacks can look like in Kyle Shanahan's system. Not every quarterback looks good in this offense. Not every running back looks good in this offense. Some running backs get drafted in the 3rd round and are gone the next year because they don't look good in this offense. You see when Isaac Guerendo's on the field, it's like, oh, it doesn't look as good as when Jordan Mason is on the field. Even I think Jordan Mason's running the ball better than Deebo too, the wide back. And I like the change up with Deebo at wide back, but Jordan Mason's been phenomenal this year. And it's phenomenal not just because of the Kyle Shanahan running game, but because he's really good too. I love the way he finishes runs. He looks like a true workhorse back right now in this offense. So big game ball to number 24, Jordan Mason. Really fun to watch.
No, I'm always worried about the workload that Kyle Shanahan gives to his backs. But if there's anybody that's built to be able to withstand that, it's definitely Jordan Mason. He's running hard. I'm always surprised when he gets stopped for, a loss or at the line of scrimmage. He figures out a way. Almost, it's not like Frank Gore, but I remember watching Frank Gore where it always felt like he fell forward. He always got 2-3 yards, even if it was only blocked up for 1 yard. And I think Jordan Mason does a lot of that. Now, can we, keep the ball in our hands a little bit? There was a bad exchange where I felt like maybe he thought Purdy was going to keep and maybe throw the ball. So he kind of dropped that. There was another one on a toss that hit the ground. Luckily, we were able to get that back. But, aside from those kind of little blips in this game, I thought he ran extremely well. He ran extremely hard. And again, the added ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, something that he worked extremely hard on throughout the offseason. He wanted that to be an added asset to his game. And I think we saw him do a terrific job of doing that. Even one that was called back, again, big play called back. He should have had damn near 100 receiving yards just as well as he had 100 rushing yards.
No doubt. 24 carries for 123 yards. 5.1 yards per carry, and the touchdown on the ground. A couple more catches for 37, and again, a long touchdown catch taken away from the stat book for Jordan Mason as well in this game. I want to talk about the wide back for a second too, because it became clear to me in this game, and I think part of the wide back usage. I mean, obviously Deebo has this ability, and you want to use that weapon, but I think for Kyle Shanahan, he's looking at this. He's like, okay, well, I don't want to have Jordan Mason back there all day. And, he could have had even more than 24 carries if you're not filtering another back in. And we did see Guerendo make a brief appearance. But I think for Kyle Shanahan, he's looking at this and he's like, well, wait a second. Would I rather have, when I spell Jordan Mason, would I rather have Juwan Jennings on the field, or would I rather have Isaac Guerendo on the field? So it kind of becomes, instead of utilizing Guerendo in the backfield and keeping Jennings on the bench, well, why not put Jennings on the field and put Deebo in the backfield? And so I really like that aspect of it. And I think it's smart to do that as long as you're not handing the ball to Deebo too much. And they didn't. And I liked the way they utilized Deebo in the backfield, but didn't just hand him the ball every time too. Because I think defenses are keying on that when Deebo is in the backfield, that he's probably going to get the ball. He got one early, but he only ended up with 2 carries in this game. And so they threw it to him out of the backfield, threw it to somebody else out of the backfield when he's back there. I think that's really smart to show a lot of change ups when you do go wide back and have Deebo Samuel at running back, to not just hand him the ball, but find other ways to even throw it to him instead, or throw it to somebody else.
Was it week 1 or week 2 when the 49ers turned around and handed the ball off to Deebo Samuel like he was Jordan Mason, having him run in between the A and B gaps? Like, nah, don't utilize him like that. I like stuff getting him out on the edge. This game, like you said, they started with a toss to the left, got him out in open space, potentially able to protect himself just a little bit. I think he has trouble kind of just going down or understanding how to fall. He took a shot on one of the first runs where I'm like, oh, don't get a concussion trying to run out there, with the ball in his hands. Later in the game, he did have a nice carry that was ended up being called back, I believe, for illegal shift, where he picked up like 15 yards on the ground. I think Deebo Samuel is at his best when they're able to flick him the ball in space. Go back to his rookie year, watch how they did. And we're seeing this a lot around the NFL and college football as well, where you go with the play action and then you toss it behind you. Deebo, who comes off this like big moon motion, catches it, and he like just runs with a full head of steam. More of that, less of I formation, Herschel Walker, Deebo Samuel. I don't want to see a whole lot of that, especially with all the players the 49ers have banged up right now. Like, you're just exposing him to more hits, running him in between the teeth of the defense.
If we just stay on running backs real quick, and a question in the chat is why was Kyle Juszczyk fielding a punt in the second half? Well, that's because Jacob Cowing left the game with an injury. And who knew? I had no idea. Did you know that Kyle Juszczyk was the 49ers backup punt returner?
I had no idea. And that says a lot about some of the other guys, that they feel like getting the ball to in space. The most important thing for a punt returner, at least what they're looking for, sure hands. And that lets you know right there, they just trust Kyle Juszczyk with just fielding punts. They don't, him picking up 5 or 6 yards, whatever he did, that's a little extra, give you a little bit extra breathing room. But first and foremost, can you just catch the punt? And he did a terrific job of that.
I talked earlier about how the game got a little closer than it should have been at the start of the third quarter. So the Patriots were able to score at the end of the first half, and then came back after a Garendo fumbled kickoff and had a super short field and ended up scoring. And all of a sudden it's 20-10. It's like, wait a second. The Patriots are getting ran off the field right now, and it's 20-10. How does that happen? So credit the 49ers. They went right back down the field after that, answered with the Mason touchdown run, and just pulled away from there. And so they didn't let this game get weird as some other games, like the one last week against the Rams, got weird when they should have done the same thing and ran the Rams off the field at SoFi. And they finished the job this week against the New England Patriots. But I was watching. I was like, oh, is Garendo going to be in the doghouse now? But he did make an appearance in the game after the fumbled kickoff. I don't think Kyle trusts him much, which is why we see Jordan Mason get so many touches. And hopefully Mason's able to stay healthy, and then you get Christian McCaffrey back, and you don't have to worry about any workload or usage for Isaac Garendo. But, right now the 49ers might have to figure something out at both kick and punt returner, because if Jacob Cowing's injured, Juszczyk's not going to be your full-time punt returner, but then you got to bring up someone like Trent Taylor or something to return punts. And, Garendo had the nice return in the preseason, but how much do they trust him if he's going to be fumbling the ball? How much do they trust him on offense? So I wonder what could be done there. And I do think that possibly one of the answers at punt returner, depending on, Cowing's health, and obviously Kyle Shanahan not having much confidence in Cowing as a receiver, Croc, maybe that's where Ricky Pearsall can work his way into the lineup, because we saw him catching punts in training camp. He looked really natural doing it.
Ricky Pearsall, a name that is almost forgotten a little bit. At least, on the field. And his window is now open for him to be able to return to the 49ers. So I think that should be a pleasant player get back for the 49ers. In this game, I watched them throw a deep post route to Conley. I am not opposed to them throwing the post route to Conley. I think he's a guy who can run. I think what the 49ers did a bad job of this game was focusing a little bit on matchups, and they did a terrific job throwing the ball. They knew where they wanted to go. They did a lot of good things, but there were times where they're just isolating a guy on Christian Gonzalez. He's a terrific cornerback, and you are not going to just outrun him in a straight line. He's a speedy, big physical cornerback. So you got to do different things to try to get him, not throw a deep post to Conley or not throw a go route to Brandon Ayuk, not against Christian Gonzalez. Try something different.
Yeah, I would say Christian Gonzalez and Jabril Peppers are two guys that did come to play on that Patriots team. I think it was Peppers that popped Deebo Samuel. He also came up with the interception, right? When Purdy was trying to make a play in the end zone. Clearly the 49ers don't, and I don't think Purdy, he's kind of got the guts. I don't think they try to stay away from guys like that. But in this game, you watch Christian Gonzalez, they're like, that guy's pretty good. He's a little bit different. And he did a good job on Deebo at times, on Brandon Ayuk at times. And yeah, he played that deep ball perfectly to Conley, and he was over the top. And it was just like, no, that's not happening.
So if you're playing a cornerback like that, right, who's physical, he's aggressive, he has good speed, you do things to force him to get off. So have guys line up, out wide, motion down to a tight split. It's going to force him to have to play off. It's going to force him to have to banjo with his teammates, so now he doesn't just get to line up and play coverage against your guy. I would like to see the 49ers do a little bit more of that, putting him a defensive back like that, a little bit more in conflict, as opposed to just saying, all right, Chris Conley, Brandon Ayuk, even Deebo Samuel, if they don't motion them, you're just going to line up on the outside on the ball and just beat this physical, speedy defensive back. I don't think that's ideal for most receivers around the league. You got to do something to free that guy up, get him to play where he's a little bit less comfortable. And again, playing off, which I watched him coming out of college. He was at Colorado, transferred to Oregon. He has a good click and close. I think he diagnoses things quick, but you have to give your receivers the best advantage, and that is getting this guy off coverage and then work him from there.
But again, I have no problem throwing some deep balls. I think the 49ers should let some go. And I think you have to make a defense respect that you will throw some plays like that. And, good things can happen even if you're covered up. You get a little PI call. We talked about this post-Rams game too. So, keep chucking it. Keep chucking it, Brock Purdy. I like it. Next, let's finish up this episode of Locked On 49ers. Rapid react, our final thoughts on the game, and some more game balls to finish up. Next. The final segment of this edition of Locked On 49ers, sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It's time, NFL fans, to start the season with a big return on FanDuel. And when you're watching a game, maybe you're watching the Sunday night or the Monday night football game, or next Sunday watching the 49ers. And when you get a hunch in the middle of the game and you want to go check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, you can find it on the same page where you place your bets at FanDuel. And now you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So you don't even have to win that first $5 bet. Get $200 extra to play with for new users at FanDuel. 200 in bonus bets. All you got to do is go to FanDuel.com and sign up, download the app, or go to FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook.
I just saw the news that Rashad Rice tore his ACL. And I know that's not 49ers related, but anytime you see a guy, or they fear he tore his ACL, but you see the strong season start to the season that he had, and for it to potentially end that way, that's tough. That is tough.
That is tough. A lot of 49ers fans, though, probably aren't too sad about it. Things have gone with them, and they need some receivers to step up. But it's kind of the thing we've talked about a lot with the Chiefs since Tyreek Hill's gone. And hopefully we get good news about some of the 49ers injuries in this game, like Cowing and Fred Warner. Cowing was let me double check on what the injury even was for Jacob Cowing. It was a shoulder for Jacob Cowing, and I didn't even see when he got hurt. Did you see when he got hurt? I hardly saw him on the field. It must have been a punt return, right? Or maybe it was a punt coverage or something.
Well, I don't know how many offensive snaps he got, but I know on the first drive he was in there. I watched him go on motion. I watched him run a route. So I thought that was like, that's not Ronnie Bell. I'm pretty sure that should make the 49 fans happy. We didn't see him get a touch. And I think a guy like him, let's manufacture some touches for him, right? Motion him across, throw a screen, have him kind of bubble inside and see if he can kind of get jiggy a little bit in space. Just different things to kind of get him involved in the game plan.
Ronnie Bell was inactive for this game, by the way. So, maybe Ronnie Bell's the guy that's catching punts next week if Cowing can't go. We'll see. Fred Warner mentioned the ankle. Hopefully we get good news there. Jordan Elliott had a knee injury. He dealt with a foot this week, and then he didn't return to the game after his knee injury. So now he's got a knee and a foot. Jordan Elliott filling in for Javon Hargrave. But I think my next game ball goes to Kevin Givens. We talked about him. 2.5 sacks. We were worried about the interior of the defensive line. You maybe go combo game ball here for the 49ers defensive tackles. With the bad news of Javon Hargrave needing someone to step up on the interior of the 49ers defensive line, this was a great team to do it against in the Patriots with how bad their offensive line is. But it's really good to see a combined 4 sacks between Kevin Givens and Malik Collins. 2.5 sacks for Kevin Givens, hit the quarterback a couple times, and 1.5 sacks for Malik Collins in this game. And I think Collins jump on the fumble as well and recover a fumble in this game? So good news there for the interior after Javon Hargrave is lost for what looks like the entire season. Kevin Givens and Malik Collins showing up. So game balls there on the interior.
Shout out to Kevin Givens, one of my favorite players on the 49ers. I feel like every time he gets an opportunity, he shows why he should be on the field just a little bit more. And being able to capitalize on that and get multiple sacks, I think that's an awesome job by him. I think my first game ball that I'm giving away has to go to Brock Purdy. This is a guy that just continues to figure out different ways to make plays. And then his ability to throw the ball down the field, put it in places. That one to Deebo Samuel, hit him in stride. He also had another deep over to Brandon Ayuk.
The one to Jennings, too. That was a dime.
Oh, dime, right? Like, again, I am really big. Give your guy an opportunity to come down with it, especially if you know it's a receiver with a huge catch radius, which obviously Juwan Jennings continues to be that for the 49ers. So giving him an opportunity, hitting Juwan Jennings on that over route, hitting Brandon Ayuk on the deep over route, passes are in stride, having guys get the ability to be able to catch and run. I thought Brock Purdy did a terrific job. And when it wasn't there, early on and really throughout this game, he did a terrific job of making plays with his legs. How many first downs did he pick up in the first half utilizing his legs? So definitely have to give a game ball to Brock Purdy. I believe he had close to 300 yards. Easily could have had over 300 if some of those plays weren't called back.
Some folks in the chat are asking about updates about Fred Warner. As of now, post-game, we do not have those updates. Let's see. Kyle Shanahan said that Warner has an ankle injury. No indication on the severity of it just yet. Said Warner tried to go back in the game, but they didn't feel like he was good to go. So I guess it's a good sign that Warner felt good enough that he could have gone back into the game. And they do not believe that Jordan Elliott's knee injury was an ACL. So good news as far as those injuries go for now. And good call on the Brock Purdy game ball, man. He deserves one. And I think we snubbed him last week in the game ball. And he's just proven that he's good, man. He's just really good. You don't like the throw on the interception, but he's going to let it fly, and I'll live with some of those. He's only thrown 2 interceptions all year, so it's not like he's putting the ball in harm's way. And just fun to watch him. Like the poor pass rushers for the Patriots chasing him all around, and they couldn't catch him. And I love seeing him. I love seeing Brock Purdy frustrate the hell out of opposing defense. It's really fun to watch because he's like an unassuming guy. And then you think, oh, this guy's nothing, right? And then you go play him, and you can't sack him, you can't get him. He's making big plays, and he's all pumped up after the play. I love that about Brock Purdy.
Oh man, it's like watching Drew Brees meets Doug Flutie meets Johnny Manziel. Like he gives you a taste of a little bit of everything. And when he plays a game like that, where you get to see it all on full display, it's like, how do you not appreciate what he brings to the 49ers offense?
He is a little bit of what people hoped Johnny Manziel, especially the Browns, hoped Johnny Manziel was going to be when they drafted him in the first round. I mean, the 49ers are getting first-round quarterback production out of the last pick in the NFL draft. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I think there's a couple times, and I'm seeing this, he's kind of bailing on pockets where I feel like he could kind of stand in there maybe. But, again, that is nitpicking. I think he's played very well. You got to be happy with what you've seen from him through the first 4 games, especially with a lot of the injuries that he's had to deal with on the offensive side of the ball.
I do want to shout out because I talked about the 4 sacks combined on the interior. I don't want to finish this podcast without giving credit to Evan Anderson, who, if I'm not mistaken, got his first NFL action. And, with the help of Nick Bosa chasing Jacoby Brissett into his arms, was able to knock the ball down. And I think he got credit for the full sack, and Bosa did not even get a half a sack on that one. Bosa kind of made the play, but Evan Anderson was there with a cleanup sack there. Big number 69 on the interior. So the 49ers, a lot of interior defensive linemen showing up in this game without Javon Hargrave. And good news that it's not an ACL for Jordan Elliott. So hopefully he's back out there really soon.
Todd in the chat bringing up Bosa. He says, I'm not getting the Bosa hate. Forced a fumble, had a fumble recovery, had a sack, created constant pressure. And I thought he did just that as well. I definitely would give him a game ball. I was getting some tweets throughout the game where they're like, hey, what's up with Nick Bosa? But if you kind of just watched him, you'd see, one, how much attention he gets, and then how much he was moving the quarterback off of his spot really consistently throughout the game. So I thought he did a terrific job. I thought he was beating the tackles how I expected him to, because of just watching him last week against the Jets. Thought Nick Bosa did a really good job, and I was excited for him at the end of the game where he finally got that sack strip fumble. Did they count that as a sack when he knocked the ball out the quarterback's hands?
He got credited for one sack. It was the one at the end of the game. Yeah.
Okay, so it must be that. Okay, yeah. So awesome job in game from Nick Bosa. Him, and I don't know if we gave Fred Warner. Did you start off giving Fred Warner a game ball?
Yeah. Fred Warner game ball, and we might have to rename the game ball after Fred Warner because he's gotten multiple this year, and he's probably going to keep on getting them. And hopefully that ankle is not bad enough to keep him out of any games because he's on pace to be defensive player this year. He's playing that good. He's unbelievable. I have one last game ball to give out, and it's the guy who scored the third touchdown on the same series after getting called for the holding, which was what called the first touchdown back. And that was George Kittle going up and mossing, like dunking on the entire Patriots secondary for a touchdown. And it always goes unmentioned, or not always goes unmentioned, but it shouldn't go unmentioned that George Kittle's a phenomenal blocker, and he's creating holes in the run game for Jordan Mason too. And he had 4 catches in this game, but that touchdown catch, that touchdown catch going up between 3 defenders and pulling it down, to unbelievable. Maybe the best Kittle catch of his career so far for the touchdown. So I got to throw a game ball out to George Kittle as well.
Yep, George Kittle did a terrific job. Some of those catches, one of them was really low, was able to dig it out the ground, help keep the chains moving for the 49ers. I think his blocking is definitely appreciated on the 49ers offense, maybe more so than like the fans. We wanted to see the catches. We wanted to see him get targets. We saw him take advantage of those opportunities, but in the blocking game, he's just really huge for the 49ers and sprung a big run for Jordan Mason off the right side of the offensive line early in that game.
He's really on the same page with Purdy too. When Purdy scrambles and moves around, he seems to find George Kittle a lot in those situations. Yeah. And he did in this game too. All right. Any more game balls before we go, Croc?
No, I think that's good.
49ers back on track, 30-13, and really the game was not that close, defeating the New England Patriots in week 4. More on this game, a little rewatch, and of course, we're back every day talking about the San Francisco 49ers. We'll be getting you ready for week 5, the 2-2 49ers, now back to 500 and on their way to a winning record and being the team that looking a lot more like the team that we expected to see this season that we didn't quite see the last 2 weeks. So it's 2 dominating performances so far this year, 2 subpar performances. Which team shows up next week? We'll talk about it right here every single day. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On 49ers on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And thanks for making us your first listen. For your second listen, check out one of the other 200 podcasts on the network, like the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Myself and former NFL scout Matt Williamson breaking down the entire league daily, and Croc and I back here tomorrow. Locked On 49ers.